get all kinds of funny things about that with students.
I always tell them, don't make me blush.
Don't make me blush, don't embarrass me, yeah. So we have these things that, you know, that are good and that we want them to do, but we don't necessarily teach them how to do it, right? So, if I spend my time teaching them how to behave, when I'm doing that, I can model it, lead it, test it, or sort of an I do, we do, you do. Basically, what that means is if my co-teacher or my next door teacher allows gum, but I don't, that's okay. We can have different rules, but we teach the expectation. So she teaches that if you're going to chew gum in my class, this is what you're going to do. If you spit it out, it's going to go in paper, in the trash can, nothing else. It won't go under the desk. It's not going to be thrown or, you know, I mean, she goes over exactly each part of it. In my class, the expectation is if you have gum in your mouth, you spit it out when you come in the room. So it's not just a matter of you can chew gum, you can't chew gum. It's exactly how you can chew gum in her classroom. Does that make sense? Because when the students know exactly what your expectations are, then they know how to follow the rule. So that way, if a student is, maybe her rule is that you can't pop bubble, you know, you can't blow bubbles and pop them. If that's the case, then, and her student does, but she's already taught what the expectation is, then she can one time just say, chew quietly, or we don't blow bubbles in class, keep on talking or going about whatever she's doing with the students, and give that student a minute to respond with either compliance, you know, not doing it anymore, or if they continue the behavior, then they already know the expectation then is that you've got a specific consequence. I'll show you the one I use. Okay, so here's an example of a teach to. If the goal is that students will be able to address the teacher in such a way that is respectful, what does that mean? Down here, the positive ways to teach to address a teacher are to use the proper name. So in my case, I have them use Miss Lucas. To talk with a pleasant tone of voice, to begin the request with may I, to wait quietly for the acknowledgement, and to respond respectfully to the teacher's response. If this is what I want them to do, then I have to teach them not only that this is what I want them to do, but that this won't work, and even the almost but not quite won't work. So they can't use hey or hey you or hey teacher. They can't use anything but Miss Lucas. They're not going to yell or demand a request or make fun of the teacher in front of the class. They're not going to address the teacher's name with just Miss or Lucas, right? So do you see how I'm giving them really detailed expectations? When I establish this in the beginning of the year, I don't have to mess with it the rest of the time. After break, you know, I may do a little reminder, but they know this is what is expected in my class. So these things, this is just one example. There's many in a particular book that I'll let you know. This book right here, and I can send you information on it. One of the things then that I have taught them, the expectation is that after you know what all these rules are, or all these class expectations that they've also helped to establish, and exactly how to do them right, and how you do them wrong, then they know that they have to go refocus if they're not going to choose to behave and choose to, you know, abide by the expectations of the class and engage in the learning. Now, for me, refocus is different depending on the class I'm in. So I may have a refocus table if there's room, or I have a refocus buddy of another teacher. So if room 110 is the refocus room for me, my buddy teacher, and we share the responsibility, then the students have learned through the teaching of expectations in the beginning of the year that if I tell you that you need to go refocus, you have to go take a refocus slip. I'll show you what I put on that. and then you have to go and complete that slip. You can take as long as you want. You can miss as much class as you want. But the consequence then is that you've got work to do. The good thing for me is not that I'm worried that, oh, but then they have homework and I don't want to give them homework. I'm not even concerned about that. The good thing for me is the rest of the class is working, because I didn't let that behavior upset the rest of my class learning environment. Make sense? So sometimes we get caught, and I used to do this all the time, I would get caught up in, I don't want to send them out of class, I need to make sure that they're getting their work done, or all these other things. I don't worry about that anymore, because my concern now is that everybody who is there can still learn, and the one or the students who are misbehaving can exit. They've been taught how to exit. So in this case, and I'll show you a couple examples, but in this case, the exit is they need to go refocus. So I'm turning a disruptive moment into a learning moment. All right. For instance, if there's a behavior problem, I ask myself 3 questions. Am I still able to teach? Are the students still able to learn? And is the disruptive student still able to learn? If the answer is yes, I'm choosing my battles. I'm not going to worry about it, right? If the student is doing this, and I can hear it, and it's kind of bugging me, but everyone else is still engaged, and in fact that student seems to be engaged, I may just let it go. I'm not going to worry about it. If they're doing it and the answer is no to at least one of my questions, if somebody can't learn or I'm about to blow a fuse, then I'm going to just walk up and say, please put your pen down, or quiet hands, however you want to say it, depending on the age group. And then they know. If the student, and I go back to what I'm doing, teaching or engaging in their groups, whatever they're doing. If that student doesn't stop, they persist in the behavior, then if my room, say 110 is my refocus room, I'll either say, please refocus, or room 110, and that student knows. Now, yes, in the beginning, I had a lot of challenge with some particular students, because they don't want to just obey the refocus. They don't want to obey, and they want to disrupt class. No better way to disrupt class than to make a scene right then and there. So there are, and rather than go over them with you today, there are very specific things for how to have more involvement in that, and I'll send them to you. But the key is that you remain consistent. And then, as the student leaves, you just treat it like it's just, that's fine. When the student decides to come back, whatever the rest of the class is doing, the student knows that they come back to the room, stand there, and then I'll say, thank you, I'll take the refocus slip, and that student can, I'll say, we're on page 210, whatever. I'm not mad about it, I'm not angry with the student, I'm going on with what I'm doing. That refocus slip, by the way, gives me not only a record, because it's got the time and the day on it, and so it gives me something to revisit with them, to revisit with parents or guardians in the conferences. But I keep it in a file, so I've got record of it. Now, what have I prevented? I've prevented a lot of sending the student to the office, right? And how many of us are tired of sending students to the office, or have a principal who's really tired of all the referrals? So we're also cutting down in referrals. Now, that refocus slip then goes in the file, and I'll tell you, these are the general questions I use. What was your behavior? What did you want? What will you do next time? Are you ready to return to the routine of class? I have had students say, IDC, I don't care. I don't care. Oh, IDC, right? And I don't know, and all their little texting things, right? And they just answer that for all of them. And I say, okay, thank you, I take it. But when I talk to them, when I use it as a way to talk to them about their behavior in the class, then I'll say, your response to this is that you don't care. And I think you do care. Because you are, and whatever great things I can tell them, you are fantastic because this, and this. And when I let them know that they actually have a reason to care,